Gracyn Robinson, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm great, Stan. How are you? Thank you so
Good.
much
Thanks
for
for
having
joining.
me.
Thank you for joining today, and really appreciate you taking time out, knowing how busy you are with the platform and getting it rolled out. And wanted to just start with a little bit of your journey. If you could just tell the audience here today a little bit about your background and Renova Health.
Yeah, sure. So my background is in interior design. I have a background in senior living and healthcare design and business development. For about 2.5 decades, I worked in the interior design space, both in, well, residential as well as commercial and hospitality. But then I really focused in senior living and healthcare. And during that time frame, I realized that, with the number of individuals turning 65 every day and the lack of really affordable housing to help meet the needs of a growing elderly population, how are we going to be able to, and the affordability factor as well in terms of senior care communities, how could we begin to think about aging in place differently and as a potential bridge between living in community and then if you need more enhanced care, going to live within senior living communities themselves. So I decided to, at that time, we were working pretty exclusively within point cloud computing, ArchiCAD. And so I thought, if we're using this technology within architectural drawings and modeling, what would preclude us from being able to develop a technology where you're able to run a home safety analysis of a space and have it based off of activities of daily living and desired outcomes, and then link it with accessible design and injury prevention products so that people can really learn about aging in place, why they should think of modifying their environment before falls occur in the home. My own mom had 5 falls in 7 years, really beginning around 68. And I didn't live nearby her at the time, so it was agonizing to experience as her daughter because I really couldn't be there, uh, and she wasn't living in the same home in which she had been in for many, many years, and so she couldn't modify it at the time, and it provided me with a lot of insight into perhaps possibilities that could occur now that we have these different means of rapid acceleration in digital twins and in AI computes in terms of looking at the built environment in a given way and how to harness physical AI.
It's amazing. And seriously, I mean, again, for the audience, the HITLAB scientists have actually done a run through of her platform. And again, extraordinarily, one of the most complex technological platforms we've seen at the lab in a long time, and very, very sophisticated, using cell phones and stuff that you can get on your cell phone, but being able to map spaces and houses and different apartments and older adult residences. It's just extraordinary, Gracyn. Just hats off to everything you've done and what your team has done. One of the questions, just really interested to find out about this, is given everything you've done around this kind of age tech product, what are some of the technical issues that you found when developing an age tech product, particularly, when a startup is trying to help develop a product like this that's around user accessibility and usability for older adults?
Well, there are a few challenges right up front. When launching a tech startup, coming up with a concept that you feel will help society, whether it's through lived experience or through aspirational hope, is really only the beginning. The age tech and longevity space is both crowded and competitive, and so it operates at a lightning speed. Fortunately, being in the US, we have our long-term care insurance model and our long-term care model itself, whether it be independent living, assisted living, memory care, or skilled nursing. We have been one of the foundational models to which other countries really look towards in terms of their care. So that coming from that background, studying it, you know, reading up on it profusely and seeing the ways in which it's obviously been impacted as well by the pandemic has really forced us to think about creating technology for this space differently. And I would say that as a tech startup, you have to think about units of scale and how the proof of the model is going to work not only at a small scale but also in a highly repeatable way. So when you think about it, the unit of scale should be a playbook that can address a certain scale, say falls within the home, which can then be repeated to successfully achieve linear or super linear growth. And that means looking at it as the home. All right, so you've got a certain age demographic that's living in a dwelling. In this case, we're looking at older adults, but there also are similar issues for young parents that have kids, and how are they going to protect and modify their home to meet the needs of their infants becoming toddlers. And so you start to think about those units of scale and how they could grow. For us, specifically, I would say that we've had to constantly pivot and repivot in terms of how we launch and think critically about our go-to market strategy. At its core, Renova Health has always been really driven by the built environment and how making certain changes along critical pathways and touch points within a home can go a long way towards fall reduction and better health outcomes. So we derived at the outset and geared our prototype around digital home safety analysis. The concept of looking at 3D AR captured spaces, linking them to problem areas between activities of daily living and desired outcomes, and then offering the accessible design and injury prevention solutions to meet the needs of the public. Our patent pending software has been really uniquely coded and constructed to pair spatial analysis with modified health solutions, hopefully toward improved health outcomes. But, this is always as I'm always learning in this and developing in that, is that it continues to grow. It's a continuous improvement process of learning, of unlearning, learning, and relearning along the way. So as a tech startup, we have to constantly stay ahead of the curve and continuously evolve with the rapid pace of technology. And especially when you're working in a field such as physical AI, where the horsepower of the built environment models, it could be, different beta releases. They're occurring at a breakneck pace, means that you literally cannot let up. You have to keep iterating, you have to keep pace, you have to remain driven, passionate, and unrelenting. And you also can't be deterred by rejection, because the age tech space is not nascent. I mean, we really were leading it prior to the pandemic. So there are a number of entities that have very strong footholds. Certainly AI is in a different space than it was in 2019, but you can't take applying to accelerators and perhaps you don't get in for whatever reason, and it could be that your product is not far enough along in its maturation. But that's all part of the growth and experience in being a tech startup. So I would say that's a challenge. We've also had to really look at product refinement from every angle as we go. And that means, all right, well, how are the fundamentals changing with certain SMEs that we work with? So we are incorporating both, we're looking at spatial health commerce, e-commerce. We designed our prototype so that that's already embedded within the back end of our code. And so as digital twins, the SDKs for digital twins are also improving and growing. And so how does that then apply to those shifts that we thought were static in terms of imports, and how is that going to affect, digital outcomes? And then more fundamentally, I would say regarding funding research and development and CapEx spending, one of the challenges with scaling a deep tech startup is the constant need for R&D and CapEx spending. So one way to overcome it is to design a business model where you can generate revenue as you go and with each small step. But when building a comprehensive platform such as RenovaHealth, which offers a software product, an e-commerce lane, and an insight hub for aging in place learning, it's been hard at times and challenging because it is such a competitive space, and therefore the pressure to deliver and outpace competition, really has been present from day one. So
Yeah.
we've structured it so that we can use the revenue that we're starting to generate from our spatial commerce offerings. We're now an authorized reseller for a leader in the aging in place solution area, which is Step 2 Health.
Yep.
And we're now bringing on other product solutions, but we're at that point of having developed that revenue lane that can help carry us to continue as we grow. But it's it's certainly challenging, and you always have to titrate things as you
Yeah.
go, because what you don't want is managing technical debt is a real hurdle when you're developing as a startup.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's part of what we heard today. Exactly, is that there's so much happening technically speaking that it's moving so fast, and particularly in an age tech category like this, it's moving really fast. So again, congratulations on all your great work, and we're going to have you back on, and just tremendously articulate answers to some really complex questions. Thank you, Gracyn, for joining us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.